How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're starting Daf Vav, Daf 6 of Masechta BavaBasra. Friends. Alright, friends. Let's jump in. Alright. Daf Vav Mud Aleph. Samach lo kosel acher megaglin olav hakol vechulei. Alright. So, the Mishnah had said that... what did the Mishnah say? So the Mishnah said that if the fence in the middle of the courtyard, the divider, the privacy situation falls down, so they have to put it back up, right? And if Shimon wants to put it back up, Reuven can't say no. They fell down, they got to put it back up. But we said that Reuven is only required to contribute up to, right, to rebuild the wall up to 4 amas in height, because that's really only that's what's necessary for Hezek Re'iyah. Now, if Shimon wants to build it up to 10 amas, let's say, Reuven is only responsible to fund half of it up until 4 amas. From then on, Shimon can pay for it himself. However, if Reuven then constructs his own parallel wall, and the idea would be to put a roof on top of it using Shimon's wall that he built, higher than 4 amas, and basically Reuven didn't want to pay for it, but now he wants to use it. So then we say that Reuven needs to, if he's going to be using the wall more than 4 amas tall, so he's got to contribute then to the payment. Now, Omer Rav Huna, says Rav Huna, somach lefalgo somach lekula. So says Rav Huna. So let's say Shimon built up the wall 10 amas tall and 10 amas long. Okay. And Reuven then builds a parallel wall 5 amas tall or 5 amas long. So we say that once Reuven, so according to Rav Huna, right, it says samach lefalga samach lekula, right? If he built this wall, half the height or length, he may as well have built it for the whole thing, i.e. he's going to be chayiv to pay for the whole thing, because once he gets started, he may end up finishing it. So once already he starts building the parallel wall, we say, hey, look, Shimon, Reuven, it looks like you're going to be utilizing this wall. You gotta contribute to its construction, for the whole wall. Whereas Rav Nachman says that whatever he built is what he pays for. So if he built, let's say, Shimon's wall was 10 amas tall, Reuven built some wall that was 7 amas tall, so he pays up to 7 amas, not the full 10. Umoder Rav Huna though would admit b'karna v'lufta that if Reuven built like let's say he had like some kind of hut going off of his house or something, that would, so this is straight up like Erevin trying to describe what I'm thinking. Some kind of house that would like have a parallel wall to Shimon's wall, and you would put roofing, I guess, on top of that. So in that case, since it's like he's using like the wall of like some kind of like shed or something as the wall, and the assumption is he's not going to, the shed is the shed. It's not going to change. So even Rav Huna would admit that, okay, Reuven would only have to pay for the wall for the amount of wall that he's using, because the assumption is not that he's going to keep on building it out. He's just going to use whatever is already there from the shed. Umoder Rav Nachman, and Rav Nachman admits be'afriza uvikvaitu d'chshure, that if Reuven builds like some kind of a beam on top of the wall that implies that that's like laying down. I'm not a builder, but I'm a computer programmer. Aren't they? When are they going to have stuff about like computer programming? Then I'll be like, oh yeah, I know what they're talking about. Or maybe I won't. Anyways, so if he's basically building like the wall in such a way that it's like laying down the foundation for like more wall to be like another floor to be built on like top of it, so clearly then he's going to keep on. So even Rav Nachman, who says that he only has to pay for what he built so far, if he's laying down the foundations to be able to build more, then he would agree with Rav Huna that he would have to pay for the whole wall. So Afriza is like some kind of foundational beam or something. Of Kavaita Dichshure is also like some kind of beamy stuff that like you could build on top of. I don't know. The point being that if it's clear that Reuven is going to be building more, then we would have him pay more. Amar Funa says, Bekave lo have chazoke. Okay. So if Shimon builds up the wall, okay, he's building it 10 amos tall, and he builds into the wall windows. Builds in windows. Now, not windows to see out of, but like windows / like cutouts that Reuven would be able to like put beams into if he wanted to build, to construct onto it. So the question is, can Reuven use that as proof that he's paid for the wall, right? We said that Reuven is only required to pay up for up to 4 amos worth of the wall. Shimon builds it 10 amos tall, and he builds into the wall things that would basically provide Reuven with support if he wanted to do construction. So Reuven could point out and say, you see, that's proof that I paid for the whole wall, because there were these support things built in for me. Clearly, I paid. So we say, lo avi chazaka. It isn't a chazaka b'afagav do avadle himlite, and even more so, even if in these windows that he builds, he puts some kind of lining thingy inside that would be like what you would do if you were like putting beams in there. Like even though he's mamish like setting up the stage for Reuven to be able to do construction on the wall, still, it is not an indication that Reuven has actually paid for the wall. The Amrle, because Shimon in his explanation for this will say, Amina lichi payasta li lo lisra ashisoy. Shimon says, look, I know that you don't want to pay for it now because you're saying that you don't want to use it right now. But, I have one chance to build this wall, right? And, let's say in a year from now, Reuven, you decide that you want to do construction. If you start building these windows into my wall, at that point, it's going to weaken the wall. It's going to be bad. So Shimon says, look, I know you don't want to pay for it right now. It's annoying, but it is what it is. I'm building the wall. And I'm also, right now, going to build the wall with the potential for you to, at a later point, do construction as well in a way that won't harm the wall, because it will be ready for that construction. Now, if you do end up using it, you're going to have to pay me. But it's not an indication that Reuven has already paid. It's an indication that Shimon is future-proofing the wall and thinking ahead when he is building it. Okay. Homer of Nachman says, "Of Nachman achzik lehorde lo achzik lichshure." All right. So now we're getting into these like different like kind of chazakas. And when we're talking about these chazakas, these are not like a chazaka of like 3 years for like ownership of a property. No, this is a chazaka of like an assumption. Really, can we assume that something is allowed? Let's go weiter for a second. So Rav Nachman achzuke lehurde lo achzik lichshure. So if Shimon is cool with Reuven, so like Shimon's got like a wall. I don't think we're necessarily talking about a chotzer anymore. Shimon's got this wall, and he doesn't mind that Reuven kind of, leans his like rafters or something on the wall. Okay, so Reuven is aware that Shimon is aware that Reuven is like using his wall for support of his rafters, and he's okay with that. Okay, fine. So if he's okay with it, he's okay with it. But that does not mean that he would be okay with Reuven leaning beams on the wall. Beams are heavier. Okay, so a chazaka for rafters are not a chazaka for heavier beams. But if Shimon is cool with Reuven using his wall for beams, well then, certainly, Kal v'chomer, he would be cool with Reuven using his wall for rafters. Rav Yosef Amar, whereas Rav Yosef says actually, achzik lehurde, achzik lichshure, that actually, no. If Shimon is cool with Ruvain using his wall for supporting rafters, the point is that Shimon is okay with Ruvain using his wall for support, and therefore Ruvain would also be able to lean heavier beams on the wall as well. Right? Once the chazak is that he's allowed to use the wall that Shimon's okay with Ruvain using his wall for leaning stuff. Therefore, he can lean rafters, he can lean beams. Ikadam, those who say that even Rav Nachman agrees with that as well. Rav Nachman says, Rav Nachman, that if Shimon is cool with Ruvain using his wall for rafters, he can also use the wall for beams. And if Shimon is cool with Ruvain using his wall for beams, then of course he's okay with Ruvain using his wall for rafters. Amar Rav Nachman says, Rav Nachman, achzik linatve, achzik lishofche. If Ruvain's got like a house next to Shimon's courtyard, and when it rains, Ruvain's roof drips into Shimon's courtyard. I think that's pshat. So Rav Nachman, achzik linatve, achzik lishofche. So if Shimon is cool with Ruvain's roof dripping into his courtyard without like any kind of like gutter that is having it all come out in like one specific spot, but no, the rain pasha just falls right off, the whole entire length of the roof, the rain just falls into Shimon's chutzner. If Shimon's cool with that, so then he's going to be also cool with if Ruvain puts some kind of like gutter on his roof and then the rain goes through the gutters and like down into one specific spot. Certainly Shimon would be okay with that. The shafche, where am I? But if Shimon is okay with Ruvain, having his water go into Shimon's chotzer in one particular spot in an organized manner, lo achzik lenatfe, that is not an indication that Shimon would be cool with Ruvain's roof just dripping throughout the entire length of the roof. Rav Yosef Amar, whereas Rav Yosef says, afilu achzik l'shofchei, achzik lenatfe, that no, even if Shimon is cool with Ruvain's roof going through a gutter into one specific place, the point is that Shimon is okay with Ruvain's water draining into his chotzer, and it would even be okay if the water just dripped off the entire length of the roof. Ikadam, those who say, Rav Nachman says of Nachman, achzik l'shofchei, achzik l'natve, that if Shimon is cool with Ruvain's water draining into one specific place, he'd also be cool with it going throughout the entire length of the roof. The natve achzik l'shofche, and certainly if he's okay with the entire length of the roof, then Shimon is also okay within a specific place. But Shimon would not be cool with a willow hut, because like a hut with like willow roof, I guess the rain concentrates in some way that would be a big inconvenience for Shimon. Rav Yosef, says Rav Yosef, afilu tzrifa du orbane, that even this hut with like willow roof would be okay as well. Avad Rav Yosef uvda b'tzrifa du orbane, and Taka Rav Yosef once paskined that this willow roofed situation would be okay. Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Rabba bar Ravua, hamaskir bayis lachavero bibira gedola. It sounds like somebody who rents a apartment to somebody. Shimon rents an apartment to Ruvain in an apartment building. I think it sounds to me like it's an apartment building. Mishtamish bezizeh v'chosleh. So Ruvain, the renter, can, if there are like beams jutting out of like the wall, okay, like 4 amas out, or if there are crevices in the wall, so Ruvain can use those beams and those crevices and hang stuff on them. Adal amas, up to 4 amas. Uvovia kosel, and if he's on the top floor, so then he can use also the thickness of the walls. B'makom shnoagu, where that is in a place where that is the minig to do so. To, I guess, use the thickness of the walls. Aval b'tarbetz apadne lo, but not by the reception area. By the reception area of the building where they have a garden, and the people don't walk in and use that area. It's for to make sort of a nice ambiance when you come in to this building. so then he can't hang his gatkes there. Rav Nachman Didei Omar, Rav Nachman himself, that was Rav Nachman quoting Rabbi Baravua. Rav Nachman himself said, "Afilu b'tar b'tzapadne," that he can even hang his gatkes in the entrance, in the atrium of the building. All right. Aval rochba shachori abotim lo. It says Rav Nachman, not sort of the area behind the houses. That's a place that he's not allowed to go to and use. Virove Omar says Rava afilu rechova shachori abatim. Rava says even the area behind the houses, the back alley, he can use and hang his gatkes. Amar Ravina says Ravina, hakshura de metalalto. Okay, so if you have I think there's some hut that was used for shade or something, and there was some beam that was jutting out of it, and it was resting. It was Ruvain's hut, and it was resting on Shimon's, wall or something. So up to 30 days, it's not a chazaka, right? We don't assume that Shimon is cool with it. We assume that maybe Shimon is okay with it, temporarily, but Reuven hasn't established that Shimon is cool with me generally just leaning my beam on his house, on his wall or whatever. But if Reuven's beam has been like that for more than 30 days and Shimon is okay with it, well then that's an indication that Shimon is generally okay with it. Now if we're talking however about a sukkah, well then it's ad shiva yomin, well then it would be for 7 days, meaning if during the 7 days of Sukkot Shimon is okay with it, okay, maybe he's trying to help him out, during the for Sukkot. But if after 7 days Shimon is still okay with it, well then it's an indication that Shimon is generally okay with it. Okay, so we're Basu Shiva Yom and Avichaz. Okay, after 7 days. Wait, where am I? So V'i Sukkah the mitzvah Shiva Yom and Lo Avichazaka. So up till 7 days, it would not be a chazaka that Shimon's generally cool with it. Basu Shiva Yom and Have Chazaka. But if Shimon allows it to continue for more than 7 days, so then it's an indication that he's generally cool with Reuven leaning his beam there. V'i Chavre Betino La'atar Chazaka. Now, if Reuven cements it to Shimon's wall, and Shimon's okay with that, well then that's kind of immediately because a chazaka that he's okay with it, because cementing something is clearly permanent, and if Shimon sees it and he's okay with it, so then clearly he seems to be okay with that, then immediately it is a chazaka that Reuven that Shimon is okay with Reuven using his space for that. Omer Abaye says Abaye Shnei Botim b'Shnei Tzidei Rishus Harabim. If you have two houses, okay, on either side of a Rishus Harabim, Zeh Ose Michael Lechatzi Gagov, Zeh Ose Michael Lechatzi, what? Again, Zeh Ose Michael Lechatzi Gagov, Zeh Ose Michael Lechatzi Gago, Zeh Shelo Keneged Zeh Umaydif. Paradam Shtikol Erevin. Alright, so you have these two houses that are on opposite sides of Rishus Harabim, and they each have roofs, okay? And so the idea is, each one of them, right, Reuven and Shimon, each one of them would have to build a wall on their roof facing each other. Each one would build their wall for half the length of the roof. And then, at the point, meaning not the same half, but the other, the opposite halves, and we say also shtickle more than half. And that way, neither one of them could look into the roof of the other one, right? Because if he's standing by his wall, so then he can't see past his wall. And if he's standing past his, on the other side of the roof, well then, the other one has his wall there. So that they can't see onto each other's roofs. All right, where am I? So again, so Zeosa Michael Chatzigago. So Reuven makes a wall on half of his roof. Zeosa Michael Chatzigago, and Shimon makes a wall on half of his roof. Zeshelo Keneged Zeh, not opposite each other, because right, and that way, since they're not opposite each other, they get the whole length of the roof. Umaydif, and a shtickle, they make it a shtickle more than halfway. My area b'shus harabim afilu shus hayochid nami. Now, Gemara, why are we saying this specifically in a Rishus Harabim, that there's a Rishus Harabim in between Reuven and Shimon's houses, even if it's a Rishus HaYochid? What's the difference? Shouldn't it be the same concern that for privacy? They shouldn't be able to look onto each other's roofs. So Rishus Harabim, it's tzricha. Well, there's a chiddush here about Rishus Harabim, which is, it's tzricha le'mau detema. I may have thought, nemalei, let Ruvain say to Shimon, right? Because meaning Shimon saying to Ruvain, hey Ruvain, I need you to put up a roof on half of, a wall on half of your roof. So I might think that Ruvain could say back to Shimon, why do you need, well, why is this like my responsibility? Sof, habayis it's tanue mipnei Rishus Harabim. Ruvain says to Shimon, I mean, after all, you're next to it, right? There's Rishus Harabim between us. So, say I wasn't here. You would have to put up a wall on the entire length of your roof so that you can have privacy from the Rishus Harabim. So why is this my problem? Why do I have to build half of the wall on my roof? Why don't you build the whole wall? Because you'd have to build it anyways, even if I wasn't here, to have privacy from the Rishus Harabim people. So Kamaj Malon, the Amarle, so the point is that we say, no, Ruvain is responsible for half of the wall, because Shimon says to Ruvain, Rabim bi yamame chazuli belelia lo chazili ad ben bi yamame ben belelia chazuli chazisli. Look, the people in Rishus Harabim would only be able to see me during the day. They wouldn't be able to see me at night. But you, because we're like level and we could see, onto each other's roofs, so then we could always see each other. So meaning, if it was Rishus Harabim, I would know that, well, if I go at night, then I'll have privacy. But with you, Ruvain, I never have privacy. Inami, alternatively, Rabim ki ka imna chazuli, ki ka yasivna lo chazuli, that the Rishus Harabim will only see me if I'm standing. If I'm sitting, then they won't see me. But at chazusli ben ki ka imna ben ki yasivna. But you, Ruvain, see me whether I'm sitting or whether I'm standing. So I have much less privacy with you, right? You afford me less privacy than the Rishus Harabim. Rabim ki me'ainu chazuli, kilom ainu lo chazuli, at mimele nami chazis li. Additionally, in the Rishus Harabim, for them to see me, they'd have to make a specific effort to see me. But you just see me. You go up to your roof, and there I am. So therefore, Shimon can insist that Ruvain build half of the wall on his roof. Amar Mai, we said earlier, Ze ose Michael Chatzigago, Ze ose Michael Chatzigago. So we say that, Ruvain puts up the wall on half of his roof, Shimon puts up the half on the wall on half of his roof. Zeshlo keneged Ze umaydif. This one not opposite the other, and then they a little bit more than 50% pshita. This is obvious. I don't know. It's like, I think it's not. I don't know. Okay. Anyways, Rashi's pshita, the high palga, that each one would provide half. Well, it's talking about where one of them had built it first, right? So meaning Shimon had already built half of it. So Ma'adetema, I may have thought, Neimale idach, let Reuven say to Shimon, Shkol ozinko ve'avde eskule. How about this? I'll just pay you money and build the whole thing on your roof. Kamashman to Amarle, that Shimon says to Reuven, at my time lo avadet, why aren't you building it on your roof? Mishum de misra ashisach, because it's going to weaken your walls to have this wall on top of it. So ananam misra li ashisai. Well, I'm also concerned that it's going to weaken my walls of my house. So therefore, I don't want to build the whole wall. So I want you to build half of it, and I'll build half of it. Amar Nachman, Amar Shmuel, Gaga somuch l'chotzer chaveiro. So if you have a roof that abuts somebody else's chotzer, courtyard, oselo maike gavo dalid amis. So the guy with the roof needs to make a fence that is 4 amis tall, so that he can't see into, if this is Shimon's roof, for example, so he can't see into Reuven's courtyard. Avo ben gag legag lo. But if Shimon's and Reuven's roofs are adjacent, so then there would not need to be a wall between the two roofs, because the assumption is that if Reuven's on his roof and Shimon comes up, he'll immediately be able to see him, right? Which is not the case, right? As we saw the other day, right? A chotzer is much more used than a roof. So the owner of the chotzer says, hey, I don't know when you're going to be on your roof. It's gonna, it's uncomfortable for me. I want some privacy. But on the roof, if Reuven and Shimon's roofs are right next to each other, so immediately when Shimon comes up to his roof, Reuven will be able to see him. which isn't necessarily the case by a roof and a chotzer. Fine. Rav Nachman though says that if you have two roofs next to each other, you don't need a wall that's 4 amas tall, right? The concern is not hezek re'iyah, because you would see when the other one comes up, but you would still need a wall 10 tfachim tall. Why do you need a wall 10 tfachim tall? Ila hezek re'iyah, arba amas binon. If we're concerned about hezek re'iyah, so you need 4 amas, not 10 tfachim. 4 amas is 24 tfachim. Ila nitbas olav kiganif b'misibas ba'amasagi. If the point is, well, here's the line that if you take, right, that if you go past the line, then you're a ganif. Well, if that's the case, why does it need to be 10 tfachim, right? Even just a mesipas, even like, some kind of like markers would be enough to say, this is the line, this is the division. And if the concern is about goats and sheep crossing over to the other side, then it's enough just with, to be tall enough that, right, that they wouldn't be able to lunge forth or something, like with their heads. I think the point is essentially they wouldn't be able to, cross over with their, cross over it. And I think 3 tefachim would be enough for that. So what's pshat with this 10 tefach wall that Rav Nachman is talking about? So really it is talking about that if you cross this line, you'll be a ganif. So then, b'mesipas matzi mishtamit le, and the reason why a mesipas, just these low, just like these basic markers are not enough, is because b'mechitzas asara, because mishtamit la, if it's just like a marker. Wait, what? Yeah, exactly. If it's just like a marker, so then he might end up either like leaning over or somehow end up kind of taking from the other side. Does Zasha say anything? Exactly. You could say, something fell out of my hand and therefore I went to take it from your, and it fell into your part of the roof, so I had to take it from there. But but if it's 10 tefachim tall already, it's a significant enough border, divider, that you don't have to be concerned about any shtick. If somebody's chotzer was higher up than the other person's roof, okay, shel chavero, ein nizkakin lo, so then you don't need anything. My love, ein nizkakin lo klal. Sounds like you don't need anything at all. What about Rav Nachman's concern about being nitpas olav keganif? So lo ein nizkakin dalad amas avon nizkakin lemechitza sasar. No, you don't need to make it 4 amas tall. 10 tefachim would be enough. If you have 2 chotzers, one is above the other. Rav Huna says, so tachton bonim miknegdo va'ola. So Rav Huna says that, let's say Shimon is lower than Ruvain, so Shimon is responsible for building the wall up to the height of Ruvain's chotzer. Ve'elyon bonim miknegdo va'ola, and then Ruvain would then build from that point and upwards. All right. And I think that they would taka. I think was it yeah. And then after that they have to then after that they split it once it gets to the height of Reuven's chotzer. Where am I? So Amar Funa Tachton Bonim Miknegdav Ola Elyon Bonim Miknegdav Ola. Rav Chizda Amar says Rav Chizda Elyon Misayeh Milamata Ovona. That Rav Chizda says that Reuven is already helping Shimon build the lower wall as well. Tani Kavasi to Rav Chizda, we have a price supporting Rav Chizda. Shtei Chatzer Zol Malim Mizo. If you have 2 chatzers, one is higher than the other. Lo Yomer Elyon Areni Bonim Miknegdav Ola. Reuven shouldn't say that I'm just going to build my part and up. I'm only going to contribute to my part and up. El Misayeh Milamata Ovona. He even helps him out and the lower part as well. But if his chatzer was above the roof of the other of his friend, then he wouldn't have to help him out there. Alright, friends, that was Daf Vav, Masechta BavaBasra. Hope you enjoyed. Peace out.